Most of us grow up with a belief that if we live a good life, we'll be rewarded later. Maybe we'll go to heaven. Maybe we'll find peace when it's all over. But that idea rests on the belief that fulfillment is elsewhere, that waiting at the end of effort or suffering. In reality, what we call heaven is not a destination. It's a state of mind, a product of the stories we believe and the meaning we assign to our lives. Ask 10 people to define heaven and you'll get 10 different answers. That's not a coincidence. It's proof that your mind interprets reality and creates beliefs through filters shaped by memory, culture, and emotion. The result is that your entire experience of the world, like what you see as beautiful, possible, or threatening, is shaped more by your internal programming than the external world itself. And this affects much more than just our conception of heaven. This is Ego Edit, where we explore why we do what we do and engineer our minds to work in our favor. Because every interesting idea has a grain of truth to it. Today, let's explore why your mind isn't truly yours, just running someone else's programming. Science now gives us a clearer picture of how this programming happens. During early childhood, especially before age 7, our brains operate primarily in theta waves, a state associated with imagination, implicit learning, and suggestibility. This is when we absorb the emotional patterns, language, and beliefs of those around us. We don't just learn how the world works, we internalize what's safe, what's possible, and who we believe we are based on who's around and what we witness. These early experiences form subconscious templates that guide behavior and perception for the rest of our lives. In fact, research shows that up to 95% of our daily behavior is driven by these subconscious patterns. Only about 5% of our actions come from deliberate, conscious thought. So when you find yourself stuck in familiar cycles like self-sabotage, fear of intimacy, perfectionism, it's not because you're weak. It's because an outdated script is still running in the background. And unfortunately, this programming wasn't even written by your adult self. It was absorbed when you were most vulnerable. That's why change often feels frustrating. You have new insights, but your actions don't reflect them. This happens because while your conscious mind wants to do something, your subconscious is still following old instructions and driving almost all of your actions. The good news comes back to our example of heaven, which we define based on our internal map of the world. If a belief like that is not fixed, just a thought we've been repeating the longest, we can call it malleable. It can be rewritten, and so can our identity. This is where we benefit from neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself based on experience. The conscious mind is capable of learning from books, conversations, and reflection, but the subconscious updates through repetition and emotional engagement. Whether you're building a skill, changing a thought pattern, or healing from the past, repetition is key. This is what makes affirmations, visualization, and identity-based habits effective. Not because they're magical, but because they leverage the brain's natural mechanisms for forming associations. This is what people mean when they say, fake it till you make it, but the science is more precise. Repeated behavior creates new associations in the brain, which eventually become automatic. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about acting like the person you want to become until your brain accepts that version as familiar. We can see this shift clearly when people fall in love. Suddenly, their world feels brighter, food tastes better, life feels meaningful. That's not just emotion, it's biochemistry. Love floods the brain with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, putting us in a heightened, mindful state. In this state, we're no longer running on autopilot, letting our subconscious run the show. We're present, engaged, and for a brief time, we show up with intention and escape the old program. But as daily stressors return and our attention shifts, the subconscious reasserts itself. Old habits and emotional patterns resurface, not because love disappeared, but because attention did. The honeymoon phase fades when we stop consciously participating in our lives and let the default script take over again. That's the psychological equivalent of taking the red pill. You realize that much of your life is being lived unconsciously. We naturally fall back into these programs after a while, but awareness of the problem alone isn't enough to stop the cycle. You need to install a new program, one aligned with your values, your goals, and your current desires, not your childhood environment. That means identifying the beliefs that no longer serve you and actively replacing them with new ones. Not once, but consistently. Gratitude practices, mental rehearsal, and new habits are all ways to reinforce a new identity, one choice at a time. Rewriting your story isn't about becoming someone else. It's about reclaiming authorship. Almost everyone wants things like love and peace, but not everyone believes they're allowed to have them. That belief lives in the subconscious. And until you change it, the old story keeps running. But once you do, something shifts. You stop chasing heaven as a reward and start creating it as a mindset. You stop living from a script you didn't write for yourself and start acting like the version of you that you're consciously and intentionally building. This is narrative psychology in action. This is how the brain updates, not with force, but with repetition, awareness, and aligned action, by practicing the identity you want to become, by catching the old pattern and consciously choosing a new response. Your identity is programmable. And the stories that once defined you don't have to confine you. You can rewrite them. That's the work. That's what it means to reprogram your mind. This is Ego Edit, and this is just the beginning. Until next time.